We are live.
Right, this is back to Senate Appropriations, January 13th, going through the Budget Adjustment Act requests. We have Department of Corrections for this. Today, I'll let you introduce yourselves for the record. Thanks for coming.
Yes, hello, I am John Murad. I'm the interim commissioner for the Department of Corrections.
I'm Marlene Bettini, the Executive Director of Finance for the Department of Corrections.
Wonderful. So we'll let you tell us what your budget adjustment is, or anything else you want to talk about. But Department, you're a new commissioner. We have the Department of Health kind of go through what he sees as their priorities. So I don't know if you have an introduction like that. We're willing to hear it, but if you also want to just get into your budget adjustment request, we can do that too.
I'll try to split the difference and give you a very brief introduction, but then we'll lead right into what Marlene is bringing to us with regard to budget. Yes, I have joined the Department of Corrections as of August, appointed in an interim capacity by the governor. It has been an incredible experience thus far. I had previously spent 20 years in law enforcement, the most recent 7 of which were in the Burlington Police Department, where I finished as the chief of police in Burlington. And as a front end feeder of the correctional system, as it were, I really didn't know a lot about the correctional system. And what I have learned has been absolutely just fascinating and impressive. The people with whom I get to work every day, especially on our executive team, are really amazing folks. They come to this job dedicated and thoughtful and desirous of continuous improvement. And I have really been gratified to get to work with them. Our system is a tough one. It's a system that really operates oftentimes underneath the radar for most people. I think the average citizen really doesn't want to think too much about what goes on in corrections. And yet it is a necessary part of a functioning civil society when we know that some people will be adjudicated by a long legal process not to be able to participate in that society in normal ways for various periods of time. We don't control the number of people that are sent to us. That long judicial process that I spoke of is something that is separate from our department, and that is as it should be. But what we have been sent by that long process has grown over the last several years, so that we now have more people who are incarcerated and or under our supervision than we have since before the pandemic. And that is a stress on us as we contemplate our capacity at the facilities, the 6 facilities that we have in the state, and on our 12 probation and parole offices. Vermont is one of only 5 states in the country that operates what is called a unified system. We don't have sheriff's jails. We obviously have sheriffs in each of our counties, but none of those sheriffs operates a jail as they do in the vast majority of other states in America. And as a result, we have people who are not only sentenced and have been incarcerated to be with us for some period of time, we also have people who are detained and may be with us for a much shorter period of time, whether they're held without bail awaiting trial, or whether they're merely held over a weekend because they got arrested on a Friday and they can't be arraigned until Monday morning, at which point they will be released. We have all of that in our system. And we have the folks who either never go to prison per se because they are given probation, or people that we parole from the system, or the parole board paroles, or people that we as a department furlough from our system and put under supervision. So there's about 1,650 people who are currently incarcerated and or detained in our facility, and about 4,500 people who are under our supervision. And that number has grown a lot over the last couple of years. And I think that our budget is going to reflect some of that, particularly some of the ups and downs that we've seen. But we are committed to presenting, certainly I can't speak about the budget to come, but we're committed to presenting a budget that does maximizes the money that our neighbors have given us to do this very important work. And with that, I will turn it over to
the numbers include the out-of-state.
Yes, 1,650 incarcerated people includes our 150 people out of state. That number grew a little bit recently. I directed that we send down approximately 30 people back in November. That was the first time that we'd sent that large number of people since prior to the pandemic. And that is a function of our capacity struggles.
By sent down, you mean out of state?
Correct. I apologize. Out of state to Mississippi.
Yeah.
We contract with a facility in Tutwiler, Mississippi, which is in the Mississippi Delta.
Senator.
Before you get into your budget, that just sparked a question for me. So, at 1650, would you say you are completely at capacity?
We are over capacity in some of our facilities, and overall we are at capacity or above capacity already. We are either over capacity or underbuilt.
Okay, and second question would be about our recently signed agreement with Customs and Border Protection, which continued our relationship with them and in effect with ICE. What I'm wondering is, my understanding of that contract allows us to turn away additional detainees if we're at or beyond capacity. Is there any thought of doing that?
We have done that many times. So the number of immigration detainees is a very small number overall compared to the totality of folks that we have, and compared to the total number of people who are in our custody on federal riders. The immigration detainees largely do not come from our relationship with the Customs and Border Patrol.
Mhm.
They largely are they're included on our contract with the U.S. Marshals. We are able to turn away immigration detainees when we are over capacity. So for example, at Chittenden Regional Correctional Facility in South Burlington, which is our only women's facility and is desperately in need of a new facility, which this body has generously approved. But finding a place and being able to build it is an ongoing issue for us and something that we're working hard on. At that facility, we are currently, I think it was 180 yesterday. I think it was 170 something this morning. That is over the capacity of the place, and we will not accept female detainees from immigration enforcement. Immigration enforcement knows that and has not presented any female detainees to us in some time. But if we fall below 170, we would once again take a number that would bring us back to 170. We cannot, the reason we do that and cap it is that I cannot say no to the Bristol Police Department if they bring me a female who has been arrested and needs to be held over the weekend. But I will say no, or our staff will say no to immigration detainees. The same has happened for male federal immigration detainees at our Northwest facility in Swanton. It happens less frequently, owing to the fact that that facility does have a little bit of space right now with regard to capacity. Although our entire system is over, certain facilities have more wiggle room than others. Swanton currently does, but it has at times also turned away additional detainees owing to capacity issues.
Well, great. I'm glad to hear that that's the ongoing policy.
Senator Lyons, you had a question?
Well, it is related to this, and I know that you've testified in joint justice about all of these issues, and appreciate that. Literally, when we talk about capacity, you're talking about beds available. Also, we'll be talking about staffing, and so some of that staffing related. How much, if any? I have another question.
Of course, our staffing is not where we want it to be right now, and the staffing deficit is about 12% for the entire department. It's more pronounced in the Correctional Officer 1 and Correctional Officer 2 ranks, which is where we really get most of the people who guard folks on a Florida facility. That said, that staffing deficit is not what causes us to be at capacity. There have been times where we had shut down certain parts of facilities owing to staffing. That is not currently the case. I believe that every single, and I would look to Deputy Commissioner Kristen Calver, but every part of our facilities right now is open for business, as it were.
No.
I don't mean it to be colloquial like that, but they are all open and capable of and being used.
So the other question relates to the housing issue when people are in transition and being released, and maybe they can't get to a recovery residence or other housing facility, and how much is that pushing back and limiting access on the other end?
Terrific question. The number of people that we are currently holding owing to an inability to release them because they don't have housing available is very small. I don't know what the exact number is, but it's small. It's probably actually smaller than the total number of immigration detainees we currently have. We have about 20, I think we have about 20 immigration detainees this morning. But it's a relatively small number of people who would otherwise be furlough or parole eligible, but for the lack of housing. I would find that, let me find that number for you so that I don't inadvertently.
That would actually be very helpful.
It should be, but
Thanks.
One more, question, this same topic. Are employees still required to do mandatory overtime?
in many facilities, yes, we have mandatory overtime, and that is. We attempt to do it in ways that work for individual employees. So if we had overtime and everybody at this table was about to go home, we would try to get volunteers for that rather than order. But we are in a position where we have we continue to have to order overtime.
And are there strategies to try to get more employees or?
We are doing pretty well with regard to hiring employees. Our challenge right now is retaining employees. And a component of the retention is the fact that we do in fact order overtime.
That's what
And so there is money available, which is nice, but money at some point ceases to be equal to the stress of having 4 or even 5 16-hour shifts in a row.
yeah.
And so it is a sort of catch-22 that in order to stop the overtime, we have to get more employees, but in order to keep the employees that we're successfully hiring, we need less overtime. So we're hopeful that we're moving sort of in the right direction on that snowball goal, but we're not there yet.
Okay, Sarah Watson.
I've heard in other parts of the world, detainees have to pay for calls. What is the practice about paying for communication from your facilities?
Our detainees all have access to tablets, and from those tablets, they can make calls to approved people.
Okay, and at no cost to them, or
Yeah.
Sure. Kristen Calver, Deputy Commissioner for the record. There's a number of different ways they can make calls. Attorney calls are all free, so they have access to representation that way. They have to have funds on their commissary account to be able to access the video visitation or phone calls from their tablet, or even a traditional phone call from the wall-mounted unit. But those are the kind of 2 general pathways.
Right.
Hi, I'm Marlene, and I'm gonna start off with personal services under section B.338. And I know you all have the summary. Gonna just kind of go through it briefly, but not really, unless you want to.
Is it all in that one? You only have, states, you only have 2, should.
Right, it's the 2, and Rounds Week does it other. Okay, so personal services, sheriff's transport extraditions due to increased cost and volume, and the 83,000 is for an already approved agreement. We were never provided with the funds, and the service is being utilized more. And this is primarily for Windsor Sheriff. The next item is well-paid staffing. Our contract amendment would allow for us to increase the average daily population above 1525 to 1550. The previous contract had 1225, and it did not have anything built into it for increases. So that's what the amendment did. It also provided part of that is also the Burlington Recovery Response Project and the section 1115 waiver. And so that is increase of 4.55643. The next item is a net neutral. It's a transfer from AHS. It's a carry forward, but we just need to have it in the BAA in order to receive it. And that is 3.168537.
Can I stop you? I have a question about the global commitment. The first one, what expenses are eligible for global commitment? Then that healthcare funds, what is that you can build the global commitment within your system?
So is this okay? So
It says it relate to the random moment time study, which I don't know if that is.
oh, that's the next one down, number 4. Yes, okay. So
the first
revenue-
one on mine is,
Okay.
different order.
The revenue offset, the global commitment increased Yes, so we have not done that in the past. We are doing it now, this year. And so, in order to, and using that, we should be able to offset with 2.5, global commitment to offset the general fund.
And what is the random moment time study?
So I can give you a general understanding of that, but I believe Deputy Commissioner Calver is much more knowledge.
She seems like she knows.
I'm ready to go. So the random moment time study is a process we use to quantify time spent that our probation officers are doing for Medicaid eligible activities. So by having that statistic, using that system.
So what would be an example like?
Sure, like, getting a person on probation or parole connected with medical services or transportation to a medical appointment or something of that nature. Yeah, so this allows us, it gives us an audit trail to quantify the use of those funds. And we found an increase in that time that they're spending. And so that's why we're able to put forth an offset to general
And
fund.
before you didn't do that,
We did
you were
not.
eligible for global commitment, but you didn't kind of buy.
Correct. Yeah, we had a very old kind of on paper time study since, I don't know, maybe 2012 or somewhere in there. And had been relying on that data the entire time. And so this gives us support for the use of those funds, and it has increased.
Yeah. No, that's good. But yeah, Senator Norris.
Yeah, before we leave personal services, I did have a question on line item 1, sheriff's transports and expeditions. Increase of $83,000. I guess that to become more familiar with what's going on in Windsor County, but why is the DOC funding money for sheriff's expeditions?
The expeditions are for people that are either, for example, people under our supervision who get arrested in other states, or people who are who were and need to be brought back. It is not, Windsor happens to be the sheriff's office that has the bulk of that contract. So it doesn't really have anything to do with Windsor County, for example, or with their sheriffs getting arrestees from Windsor. This is instead people who are extradited from other locations back to our facilities or custody.
So then this is separate from the SAS responsibility of extraditions?
Yes.
Okay.
One is pre-conviction and the other is post.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next item is under operating services is for a Southern facility, water sewer bill. There was an agreement in place and it's now expired, requiring us to pay the cost. And so that has increased $1,000 for federal funds. The next item is fee for space charge, pilot fund increase of $55,000, and that's a special fund increase.
Now, ask you about that one. What is that? Why is it coming from pilot funds and what is it? You know,
Sure. When we built, actually it's both for Newport facility and the Springfield facility. And it's in the agreement we have with the town, and that's where the funds were originally appropriated. Each year that number increases based on the consumer price index. And so we've had to absorb the additional fund, additional expense in general fund over the years. We're
it's
going
just an
to
inflationary,
yeah, just an inflationary percentage that's applied.
and it's always come from the pilot fund.
Correct. Yeah, we just can't absorb it in our regular judgment budget anymore.
Right.
The next item is staff hotel costs. Hotel costs for short turnarounds, staff transporting, and that has been unbudgeted, and the increase is up to $225,000 in the general fund.
$100,000? Is that what you said?
$225,000.
Oh,
Right.
got it. That's,
And it's all just hotel, there's not other support.
It's just for hotel. The next item is heat mitigation, which is DOC policy number 322, and it includes things such as equipment, fans, clothing, breathable warm weather short sleeve shirts, water, and other cold refreshments related to the policy, and OSHA recommendations, which is an increase of $60,000.
Could I ask, that happens, Jeff? I'm just curious because there's been a long running debate about air conditioning, and I assume this is mitigation in the absence of air conditioning, and I'm wondering what the current thinking is at DOC on trying to air condition facilities.
That would be a question for not only DOC, but also for BGS.
Yeah.
And it would be a pretty large undertaking. I believe there are plans available right now to actually improve HVAC on some of the facilities, but doing it for all would be prohibitive at the time being. These mitigations are really, as you pointed out, they are in lieu of something that we cannot yet obtain, and we don't see obtaining before it gets hot again.
When you say HVAC improvements, that wouldn't be for all. Are we talking about staff areas with the air conditioning, but not detention areas?
It would, I believe that we would be starting with office facility, the office parts of the building. The ability to move air conditioning into existing cells is a much larger lift insofar as infrastructure changes.
Understood. I guess I would just encourage that we pull out from, building considerations or even budgetary considerations and just think about it from the humane aspect. If we spend state money to air condition offices, knowing that, conditions, because I'm assuming that these heat mitigation measures are not necessarily going to inmates, they're for staff.
These mitigation issues are describing things for staff, yes.
So I, as one senator, I would be glad to see a plan, a long range plan to air condition all of our facilities. We only have, as you say, 1,650. That's by most state standards. That's a very tiny group of people. Seems like we should be able to air condition in a global warming environment, beyond just staff offices. My little.
Thank you, sir. Yes, no, I hear you, Senator. Certainly, we would want a component of custody is care. It's a huge component, and at a certain point, heat becomes a care issue. Certainly, it is so for our employees who have to wear much more. And a component of the issue for why heat may be more striking for them is that they have equipment that they have to wear, different clothing that they have to wear. They also have to be able to function in ways to be able to sort of move throughout the facility and be ready for the work that they're doing. That, however, is not an indication or an excuse for the idea that the people in our care and the incarcerated individuals with whom you are entrusted suffer in these heated moments as well. Figuring out how to address that would absolutely be something we're doing. I don't know that any of.
I can add to that. Yeah, for the last couple of years, we've been putting forth capital bill requests to get HVAC, air conditioning specifically at all of our facilities. Because of the large expense, it's kind of been piecemealed out. We have around, I think around 9 million secured for Southern State, being that is the facility where most of the folks with severe medical needs are housed.
Yeah.
So it just made sense from that perspective. What also securing funding for kind of cooling areas that address both staff and incarcerated individuals. We already have in our budget to be able to provide incarcerated folks, cold beverages and things of that nature. And so that's why this policy only addresses the staff portion, but we are taking steps to address for incarcerated folks.
And when we have BGS.
Yeah, they can provide detail on the project status.
Yeah.
And then how we're going to roll out the next facilities. Northwest needs a new roof, and so it needs to be done prior to kind of mounting HVAC systems there. So they are kind of last in the queue. Just for
Got it. Thank you.
Are you done?
No, just two more. AES service level agreements transfer from AHSCO, which is AHS net neutral, an increase of 215,000 previously. And the last item is what Commissioner Harvey discussed was the correctional out of state beds, which is an increase of 389,955. And that is for additional out of state beds. They're utilized now or 50 this year.
And I have a question on the last one, but why did the ADS SLA get switched from human services? That's what happened, like the human service used to pay it and then they're making you pay it now.
ADS It's not that Human Services used to pay it, it's they're trying to offset the cost for ADS by transferring some of their funds over because of the increases that we've
the
had.
money they're giving.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, and then the well path. When we saw this, and Commissioner Gresham was the mayor when he presented it, if the fee, the $4.5 million increase, is if you go over the 1,525, so if you get the 1,526, you pay another $4.5 million? Or is that just like a prorated amount now that you're at 1,600? You know what I mean?
So the way that the contract is, the original contract, as I said, was based on an average daily population of up to 1,250, with no ability to increase, and we were far beyond that as a commission. So in October, we amended the contract to reflect an ADP of up to 1,550, keeping in mind that some of those incarcerated are in Mississippi, so they're not under this contract. And so the per incarcerated per month cost is multiplied by 1,500, not 1,550, but by 1,500. Which, if the average daily population is between 1,450 and 1,550, so 1,500 is in the middle of that. So that it's an average. It's an average of it.
Do they get, but is it every month changes based on
The contract this year has been written based on 1,500. And so we will be going through a renewal or another amendment. Right now, it's out based on 1,500, even up to the 1,550.
But does it get calculated every month, or is it just
We're just using that 1,500 every month
for the budget?
this year for the
But
26.
the actual contract, you actually only get billed by the number of payments for that month, or is it just like, we're assuming it's gonna be around 15 to 15, so.
We're just using that 1,500 to calculate the bill. So that's what is being used against it with.
And that's why you pay that, they invoice you that way? Or
Yes. And the amount is a specific amount, the same amount each month, once the contract was amended.
So after that amendment, doesn't matter how many. It's just,
Well, at this point, they're good.
If it went over 1,550,
right,
Yeah.
if it's underneath, there's not a savings, at least for this contract.
their unspent monies are returned to us.
Okay.
So if we were to fall below that number, then that's part of that. It's not the initial close.
Okay, that's good. Okay, thank you.
And that is the presentation for the summary. That's right on 61.
Okay, any other questions for Department of Corrections?
I have questions, but they're not money related. So I might email you.
You can do a tour of the. Yeah. Where I do have several constituents, which lots of us shootings concerned about the women's prison. Although I talked to a lot of people that have been against a new women's prison until they visit the women's prison, and then they say like, "Oh my God, we need a new prison." But where are we on that timeline?
We are working closely with BGS to develop a RFP in order to go out and find a new property. There were state-owned properties available to us in Essex, and both of those were ultimately determined they were not properly zoned for the facility and could not get zoning variances from the town of Essex. There were a variety of reasons for that. We worked, I believe, pretty hard. It was something that I did very early in my tenure to try to meet Essex's needs on that front. We made strong cases that South Burlington considers us a pretty good neighbor when it comes to the women's facility there. But it was not to be. So we are now developing with BGS an RFP to determine if there are other properties available. We really want desperately to keep it in the vicinity of the current facility for a variety of reasons. Most prominently, two. One is that all of the services that are available to our female incarcerated are in that area. and we don't want to move far from those services. And two is that our employees who are used to working in that facility are trained differently when it comes to, or at least experienced differently when it comes to working with women as a population, that is where they commute. They either live nearby or that's their commute to go to South Burlington, and we would not want to disrupt that. For example, if an absolutely perfect property were to suddenly avail itself in wind, that would not be a move that we would really want to contemplate. We have very specific needs for this. We've been looking at other facilities in other states that are very impressive to us, especially with regard to reentry. Developing a reentry capacity for women is going to be very important with regard to the design of this facility, and ultimately with regard to what we can start contemplating for men as well, and potentially for male facilities. If our purpose is to be corrective and to correct people, a component of that is getting them ready for the success that means never coming back to a facility and getting out from under supervision without ever returning to supervision. That's success. And we certainly want to build a facility that's capable of fostering that success as much as possible.
How many women are there now?
170. Actually, this morning it's I think a little higher.
Are you building a facility the same number or different?
We have 172 women as of this morning. Yes, we would be building for a slightly larger total population because our general population beds are far below 170. The total facility nominally has about 176 beds, I believe. And as I said, we're at 172, but we were at 180 yesterday morning. However, general population is much lower than that. And our general population, so it's not unlike the fact that the number of beds includes infirmary beds, it includes special housing beds, it includes segregation beds, which we do not want to use permanently. The notion of those is that a person goes into the infirmary temporarily and then leaves upon getting well. Maybe needs to be moved into some sort of segregation housing owing to real behavior problems, but ultimately comes out from that. And so really our population should be no larger than our general population, and best practices in the industry suggest it should be about 80% of the general population total. We're well over that right now. And so our plans would be to build a facility that has a larger number of beds than that and separates a number of those as, again, reentry beds in a standalone but attached facility.
Okay, center lines.
So thank you for all of that. I mean, it's very helpful to hear this over and over again. Been hearing it for 10 or 15 years. And it's really unfortunate that women are incarcerated in that facility. I know that some of the visiting for kids has been shut down because there's insufficient room. And it's just not a place you would want anyone to be sent back into society. They don't have the opportunity to really regain themselves. But I have a short question, and that is, when the proposal came before Essex, did those folks from the town have an opportunity to visit the current facility? Do they understand what they said no to? Because I just can't believe they said no.
To my knowledge, no, it certainly didn't happen since I came aboard in August. I think they were afforded that opportunity. Certainly, we would have welcomed them to come take a look. I know that they discussed it they talked, for example, with other counterparts in South Burlington around the impact of having a facility like that in their town, but I don't believe we ever had an organized visit.
That might be really helpful.
I agree. They were offered.
They were offered, but
yeah.
sometimes you lead a horse to the water, but
Sure.
Thank you. The never ending struggle. Yeah.
We'd be more than willing to do that again with the Planning Commission. I do think that both of the properties that were available to the state in Essex were not ultimately ideal properties. They each would have been, particularly the second one that we eventually settled on, which was off of River Road.
Right.
Initially, the department felt that the first property, which lay on the former right of way for extensions of 289, would have been preferable, but it's elevation changes, its topography will really not conducive to anything other than a multi-story facility, which we do not want. We really want to lean towards a single-story facility with a separate reentry facility. It affords more daylight. It affords more opportunity for people to move inside and outside of the building, obviously still within a secure double fence. But that's why we are leaning towards a one-story facility. Neither of those plots of land would have been ideal for that. But the second plot of land could have worked for us. I'd be happy to re-invite them if that would make an opportunity for us, particularly depending on how the results of this RFP end up. But then again, perhaps there's an absolutely ideal private property that is available somewhere else in the Chittenden County area.
So something has to happen quickly because the facility is really degraded so much.
Yes,
Yeah.
and as you pointed out, ma'am, there are a number of things that we're not able to do currently, from something as simple as our pickleball league that was organized by members of the community, because we are currently using the gymnasium for sleeping. And more, I think, more poignantly, things like our Kids Apart program with Lund that is still running, but it can't run in the same ways when it doesn't have the same spaces available to it. And so all of those things are negatively affected by both the capacity issues and the quality and the condition of the building. But I need to be honest, we are probably going to have to address those sooner than we can even contemplate owning a piece of property, putting shovels in the ground and designing and building a new facility. We are going to, particularly if the current trends for increases in population, detained and incarcerated, continue, we are going to have a much more striking problem with regard to overcapacity at the women's facility. And we're going to have to do something long before we are going to be able to actually put shovels in the ground.
I know we've set money aside. It wasn't all the money.
No.
And we don't know what the total is going to be. We just said, we know it's going to happen at some point. So here's 3 million. I think we did at one point.
Yes.
We don't have a number, what we think it's going to be.
We do not currently have a number for a total build out. I think that the monies that have been thus far appropriated are sufficient for any purchase of property that if we were to identify one. But the building process, no, there will.
Do you happen to know, or Maureen, do you know how much we have left said? Or do you remember, Bruce?
It's in the capital.
15 million.
Yeah.
Yes.
Moving forward.
15 or 50?
15.
15.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I won't bring up reentry issues. They're all there. Housing.
Yes.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Lord.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Budget, yes, for all time.
I did bring it up.
She's pushing.
Right, yeah.
I'm gonna run my stuff, I know.
So
You've been around for a long time.
Yeah, there's crazy.
Just the north of that. Well, we're gonna have a big player.
Is there any?
Oh, there's no one here.
Me too.
DCF is popular.
I think they sent something, right?
Yes.
Okay, we can unmute it.
Yeah, I need it. online.
So welcome, you can introduce, if you're able to introduce yourself and who you have with you.
Hey, I'm Sandy Hoffman. I'm the interim commissioner of DCF, and I have Megan Smeaton.
I am Lily Sojourner, the director of the Office of Economic Opportunity, and apologies, I have to leave around 2:30, 2:45, so I'll speak out at that time. Nellie Moore, senior advisor to the commissioner to CF.
Thank you. So go ahead with the presentation you want to make about DCF as a new interim commissioner. If you have anything you want to say about your new role there or your how you're seeing things, but you can also just launch into your.
I'm just going to launch it.
That's fine.
So DCF's mission is to foster the healthy development, safety, well-being, and self-sufficiency of Vermonters. We provide benefits, services, and supports to some 200,000 Vermonters. That includes children, youth, families, older Vermonters, and people with disabilities. Our budget is organized into 13 appropriations. They correspond to our DUCT IDs or programs, including economic services, family services, child development, child support, economic opportunity, disability determination services. In addition to ESD staffing and operations, the admin appropriation contains the Commissioner's Office staffing and operations, the Business Office staffing and operating, and ADS budget. The proposed BAA represents a 0.8% increase over the state fiscal year 26 budget as passed, with adjustments based on caseload trends and system of care needs. It also addresses technical corrections, revenue adjustments, and efforts to maximize federal funding where appropriate. So highlights under economic services is there's an adjustment to the ADS service level agreement, income verification system, caseload adjustments to AABD, PNI, GA support services, and REACH-UP. And you'll go through those acronyms when we get there.
And where is your, what section is yours in that?
Page.
You know, the B section, 316.
Yes, so we started 316 and then we go to 13 ones after that.
Okay.
So Megan's going to go through each of the sections in the spreadsheets. I'm just giving you the highlights. FSD transportation pressures, caseload adjustments, prices stabilization facility. OEO is expansion of investments for Vermonters experiencing homelessness, annualization of permanent supportive housing, and then other revenue adjustments include the Planet net neutral adjustments. And then one-time requests are general fund of $150,000 for the ADS child abuse hotline. So Megan's going to walk you through now the line by line.
Yes, so I sent out a narrative spreadsheet document that you should have all received.
That's like the.
Yes, it's quite colorful.
And if you know, do you happen to know how that ends up with the worksheet that Commissioner Gresham did that looks like this?
So the admin appropriation is B316. On my sheet, every time we move into a new appropriation, the colors change, so you can see that we're moving through. And then on the farthest left-hand side is the B section for each of the appropriations.
It looks like you just provide even more detail than was on this sheet. Like you.
Yeah, it's mostly the last column is the narrative portion.
Right.
To help you align it. I gave you the other information. I'm going to actually skip ahead though to B325, which is the OEO appropriation, because Lily has to go certify in other committees.
Yeah.
So I just want to make sure that you have an opportunity if you have questions for her while she's here. So in OEO, we have the first line is an up of $259,000. It's actually a net neutral transfer from grants into personal services. This is funding to support 2 limited service positions that are needed to support the ever-growing grant portfolio that OEO administers. These positions were funded with ARPA in prior years, but that money has ended. And so we are asking it to be backfilled. But those positions were funded with general fund. That was a one-time appropriation for the housing. And then the next one on there was the one that was funded with the ARPA that is
You
expiring.
have people in positions who keep paying.
I believe we do have people in those good positions.
We have people in 2 of the 3 and are finalizing a hiring date. That's everything.
And then, we have the next line is, so the shelter funding, baseline impact of, $2 million. OEO has been utilizing one-time funding to stand up new shelters throughout the state, creating operating pressure and additional HOP investments that are needed to maintain and continue this expansion in the state fiscal year. So that's a $2 million.
And this is to expand.
Yes, it's to continue operation and expansion. It's a mixture of both. So that's OEO. If no one has any questions, I can come right back up to the top and we can work with them. Oh, weatherization, organizations, we don't have this, okay, organization, so.
Unless you want to tell us, we always want to talk about weatherization.
We do too.
So, jumping back to the beginning, between 16 and admin appropriation, the pink section on the sheet, we have, the first line is a net neutral move. You'll see the opposite, in FSD. But basically, we are trying, to align our TANF revenue with places where we need to spend federal revenue and then, swapping it with general fund in places where we can, maximize our maintenance buffer. Which allows us to be able to buy down our work participation requirements and meet our maintenance buffer requirements for the TANF board. So it's all just about maximizing federal funding to the best of our ability. The next line on there is the income verification system. ESD has been using a federally approved earnings verification system, or EVS, to verify income for program eligibility. But the feds are no longer providing that system free of charge. So ESD is trying to secure licenses to allow them to utilize another vendor that provides a pay-as-you-go model. And so under this model, quality control and fraud claims units would be charged each time they used it. And we're estimating that would be about $50,000 annually.
You know, is the name of the company not public? No, you have signed the contract.
Yes, I think we have to continue the procurement process before we can share anything there, but I think back to you if it was finalized.
Or do you know, did you talk to other agencies from the state that do this?
I believe we are planning on connecting with DEVA as well.
There have been preliminary discussions with you.
And the last line in admin is the ADS service level agreement, or SLA. This is a net neutral transfer from AHS. It's for DCF's portion of the increased ADS SLA cost for state fiscal year 26.
I guess we have the ADS, because I thought we got rid of this. SLA.
So it's appropriated to the central office.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
We're just moving more like it's a transfer. Or is it a reversion and we make a transfer?
Yeah, well, they're
Similar.
reducing the amount in central office and appropriating it in the right departments.
Because ADS at one point was just doing it all out of the central office for the benefit of the department, but now it's in the new departments doing so.
I don't know if that's really.
Probably for the history, I would refer you to AHS and ADS. I think part of it is that the allocation is hard to know in advance, and so this allows them to figure out after the fact what the allocation between the various departments should be when they're transferring it during BAA.
So this will continue.
I'm not sure what.
Because last year it seemed like we were like, we're gonna stop and fix this so we don't have all these BAA adjustments there. Okay, that's fine.
So, moving on to B317 FST, that's the yellow section. You'll see the other half of the TANF revenue realignment, which is just the opposite. So we're putting the federal funds into FST and sending the general fund to admin. The next line on there is the
NCSS or Northwest Counseling and Support Services. Last year, we had money transferred from DMH to DCF. And it was put in CDD by the state, and so we're just moving it to FSD where it belongs for the DS portion of that. And then we have transportation contract pressures for $1 million. FSD's transportation contracts have continued to increase over time substantially, creating budget deficit problems for FSD. We worked on right sizing it last year, but over the course of the legislative session, the costs continued to go up for other vendors that we hadn't factored in. So this is again an attempt to right size our transportation budget to align with the contract values.
Can you give an example of who's being transported where? You know that?
Yes, so it's anytime we're transporting children, so it can be taking them to school, taking them to medical appointments, it can be secure transport. I think Deputy Commissioner Erica would probably provide more details. Yeah.
For the record, I'm Erica Radke, Deputy Commissioner of the Family Services Division. Megan, you have it absolutely correct. It's generally transporting youth to school, medical appointments, counseling appointments, as well as those occasions where we may need to have secure transports by sheriffs.
Are these children like homeless families or under the care of the party?
These are children in our custody.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the next line is our substitute care caseload and utilization. This you'll see a down. We're seeing decreased caseloads in most of our types of substitute care. They'll list each of the different categories is listed there. Those changes are based on what we budgeted, not based on last year's actual. So I just want to be clear that when I say we're seeing a decrease in caseload, it might not be a decrease year over year in actual cases, but it's a decrease in what we thought we would have this year versus what we're actually seeing. So if you have any questions on any of the specific ones, we can talk to that, but it's generally some changes in different directions depending. The state continues to go up on a cost per case every year, but we're seeing decreases in other areas.
Hard to believe that we're seeing some of the caseload reductions that are here, but they're happening.
Yes, I think we're seeing a reduction in the number of children in our custody.
That's good.
Yes, it's really surprising. It's good news, and I think part of the reason is we've been really working on adhering to our structured decision-making models to really make sure we're only bringing in children safely that need to be in custody and care. That's part of it, and we're going in the right direction.
But the eligibility requirements haven't changed.
No, they have not.
And then the last line is the subsidized adoptions, caseload utilization, and that one it's going the opposite direction, it's going up. And this is because we're seeing increased caseloads and slightly increased costs per case on average. Each case is individually, and so there's not like this is just an average cost per case. But we are seeing trends upwards there with more kids and subsidized adoptions. That's FSD. So moving on to CDD, we have two lines. The first two lines are just a technical correction. Last year we had some funds transferred from DMH to DCF for our DS waiver population, and then again for our children's integrated services, and the amounts had just been swapped on the ups downs, and so this is just to correct that. Just for clarity's sake. And then the final line on there is the transfer to FSD for the developmental services or DS portion of the amount that was spent CDD last year. So that's CDD. Moving on to AABD and for the aged, blind and disabled. We have a decrease in our admin caseload. So we have to pay the feds a flat rate per payment that they administer on our behalf for AABD. As you can see in the line below, the next line, we see our caseloads are trending downward to some extent in AABD. And so the amount that we had budgeted to pay up for those, the administration of those payments is also too high. So we're realizing some savings there as well. And then the last one is the essential persons caseload. Again, we're seeing some savings that we can realize there as well.
Okay.
Moving on to general assistance, or GA, the support services caseload provides financial support for burials, physicians, dental, and abortions. We are seeing increased pressures for 3 of those. So burials, physicians, and abortions, and then dental is actually, we have some savings. That's why you see the down in the global commitment portion, because that is a Medicaid funded benefit. So those together combine to a number.
Here, can I touch on those? Just out of curiosity, now, you know, Scott, what is the cost for a burial if the state takes care of?
I don't have that off the top of my head. I don't know if Deputy Commissioner Gray knows that.
Also don't know off the top of my head, but I can get it.
Thank you.
And then the next line is the personal needs and incidentals, or P&I caseloads. And these, we are seeing downward caseload trends in the past couple of years. So we have savings that we are realizing here as well. And those are benefits that provide funding for groceries and room and board. So that's GA. Moving on to Reach Up. We have a consultant that we have worked with for many years who does our caseload projections for us. And so this, we're able to using those caseload projections and applying cost per case based on the last couple of years and trends we're seeing. We are able to realize some significant savings in the Reach Up budget. So that's the $2.2 million savings that you see there. And then the line below it, it's just a net neutral and revenue realignment.
You gonna keep any of that money, or did you move it out of your ADS? Let's see.
It's not a 1-for-1.
Okay.
So that's a huge job. We already did OBO. So that brings us to the Secure Residential Treatment Facility, or B327. So we have one line item there. It's 1.9 million for the crisis stabilization program. We are currently operating Red Clover, which is a temporary facility that provides secure treatment. We also are entering into an agreement, or had entered into an agreement for a crisis stabilization program in Wyndham called West River Haven. And those two combined are about $8 million to operate annually. We have a budget of 3.7 million in SRTF, so that's obviously not sufficient to cover those two needs. But we do have a lot of one-time money that we have been carrying forward to use for facilities. And so we plan to utilize that this year. That still leaves us about $1.9 million short of where we need to be. And so this is the funding that we need to be able to operate both the West River Crisis Stabilization, Red Clover, and then all the other smaller contracts that we have for secure treatment. And so that's everything in our base appropriations. We do have one-time appropriation. It's funding maybe not really labeled, but it's funding that we have to pay to ADS for their support for the child abuse hotline expenses. There was necessary IT work to make our child abuse hotline compatible with the new server requirements. And so that was necessary, and that's something that we had budgeted for.
It's an existing hotline, or it's been around for a while. It's ADS said like the last store, your recording, storing the data.
I'm not exactly sure what the child abuse hotline data would be that they'd be storing on the server for the hotline, but I just know we can get you more information on that. I'm not sure. Anyone online knows that?
You want to know what that ADS, what ADS
Yeah, like
is?
what, is it because you're recording and you have like a lot of data and you're storing, you're recording all these calls, or it's like what is it that ADS needed to change?
It was more to make us functionally compatible with the system. Apparently, our system was really old, and we wanted to make sure we were compatible with the other systems that they had been upgrading. So it's primarily making sure that when our workers are answering calls that are in the queue, that they're able to pick them up when the ones that are prioritized, making sure the headsets are working properly. It's really just to make sure the hotline is operating efficiently.
Gosh, it's kind of like they're solid telephonic software. Okay,
So that's the budget for BAA at least.
yeah. I don't have any other questions. Anybody else? This is your opportunity. If you see it a hard time about something. The first time we haven't spent an hour talking about the hotel program.
I can't believe you answered.
Don't want to bring this up. Well,
That's the trend.
And Lily's left, so.
didn't we, nothing that's not these days, didn't, the MH also have $150,000 for their crisis hotline? It's gonna be an ongoing trend as the department.
988, you're talking 988, the suicide line, or?
They did say that, yeah, maybe it's.
They were trying to front load, I think we have ADS, and now it's coming back again, so they're in there.
Maybe a little coordination.
Yes, that's whatever they
I
are.
don't want to bring that up, but
Yeah, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your work. Okay, is there anything else? Things that people don't want to bring up, but they're gonna bring up today.
About two other things, Christmas and flux.
Oh, yeah.
I do have a procedural thing. How fast, this is obviously a stripped down VA. How fast is the House shooting?
They're gonna wait till after the governor's budget is out, and then they can, like the next week or days, we're not sure how. It should be ready to go, but they don't want to have to leave the house before they know what the revenue forecast will be.
We are.
Yeah, that's fine. So I would assume it'd be maybe the week after, because then the appropriations committee gets rid of it that week of the governor's address, and then it's gotta go to wherever it's gotta go. And then they vote on it, so maybe the following week we would have it. No? Something like that.
Okay.
So we might start taking testimony on budget. Well, we have to wait for the address to do that, but after the governor's address, we might start taking budget testimony and budget adjustment testimony at the same time, just to keep it clear.
Being able to last year, that's got.
Okay,